Hi, the brand new event containing the new endgame content Simulator Universe Swarm Disaster is here. Now before I say anything, can we just have a moment of silence for Genshin since it took Honkai Star only 4 patches to get new permanent endgame content, and it took... oh wait, Genshin is still waiting for it. This event is insanely fun and quite challenging too. If you don't know what it is essentially just Simulator Universe, but you have control over more things, such as the amount of floors, what is your next floor, is it combat, or occurrence, or a minigame, and of course, a lot more additional content too, that builds on top of the existing Simulator Universe stuff, such as a more complex path system, transaction floors being more than just a fancy occurrence, and many more. Oh, and before we start, I'll be giving away a supply pass / welcome in / crystal card to a subscriber at 2k subs, so make sure you subscribe to enter. Well, as I mentioned, this new content is quite challenging, but it does get easier as you unlock upgrades within the game mode, so I thought I'd throw a top 3 best path to use in this brand new Swarm Disaster event, so you can find yourself having an easier time unlocking all your upgrades. Because honestly, when you're at a high enough investment level on your characters and everything is upgraded in this game mode, it really doesn't matter what path you choose, because you can kind of just brute force through everything with damage. So let's get into it. At number 3 we have the Path of Destruction. Yes, a bit surprising, yes? In the original Simulator Universe, destruction is kind of bad, but why is it so good here? In the original, the enemies were never really strong enough to do significant amount of damage to where you would die in 1 or 2 hits, maybe except the Airborne Deer. But without any specific blessings, you could probably tank the enemies a fair amount, but that's not the case here, especially in the hardest difficulty, Torturous. They have turned up the enemy's damage stupidly high to the point where you're almost getting one shot by the normal grunts, not even bosses. So you need survivability, and then you need damage too. Because all the bosses, including the brand new one, increases the damage the more turns they have. Some do it in a different manner, but at the end of the day, it's all the same. It's just more turns, more damage. So we also need damage, and to be honest, if you're unaware, your characters by themselves without any buffs from the game mode is not gonna be enough. We are talking about millions of HP, and not including the defenses. So with these two things in mind, what is the path that does both? Yup, Destruction. Destruction makes your character innately more tanky and do more damage. It is the most simple and straightforward one. You could say it's just playing the game as normal, but you have much higher stats. Now don't get me wrong, it's not like the damage path doesn't have defensive buffs, and the defensive path doesn't have any damage buffs, but without unlocking the upgrades, you really are not gonna have a good time with them. But I am gonna contradict myself, because at number 2 we have the Path of Abundance. Now you see on paper this is just a defensive path, and you're right, but there's one factor that makes it better than most others, and that is the Abundance Dice. It has this buff where you lose 2 extra move count per domain, but you gain 1 when you enter a Mercy marked domain. And the dice effects are very generous with marking domains with Mercy. So what ends up happening is that you get to enter almost every single domain without falling deep into the planar disarray. This means that you end up with a lot of blessings and curios. So while Abundance Path is tanking everything for you, the Abundance Dice allows you to gather up so many buffs that your characters are doing insane amounts of damage too. Now of course, just like playing Abundance in the normal SU, this path is the most long and tedious path. In the original, it is just a boss fight taking 2 years, but here it is because you have to go through so many floors / domains, way more than a normal. But just starting the new game mode without any upgrades, Abundance is really the lowest entry path, and that is important since all the other paths you will probably feel really bad in the beginning if your characters aren't super highly invested. Before I show the number 1, I'd like to mention a few honorable mentions. The first is the Hunt. This path actually focuses a lot on speed and getting turns. Remember how I said the more turns the boss gets, the more damage they do? Well, what if they just get no turns? Yeah, that's essentially the Hunt's main strong point. If your characters are well invested and you have good defensive options, the Hunt path will probably be the best one since you can probably just kill through everything before they even get a turn to attack back. The second honorable mention is Preservation. If you have Japard, this path goes from a defensive one to an offensive one. No, but jokes aside, the amount of quick damage the path can do with Japard's huge shields is insane, and of course since it's still a defensive path by nature, you aren't gonna die either. This path may have more trouble than others if you don't get the right blessings, but overall it's still a good option if you have Japard. Okay, for number 1, last but not least, the Path of Remembrance. You know how I said the Hunt kinda just makes the enemies get no turns? Well, in the same way, Remembrance does the same. It takes a little extra work when you actually find the boss. You can't just Japard Preservation or Lotro Abundance auto battle, but overall in terms of the ability to clear the content, Remembrance is the best for this game mode. However, there is one small problem with this path, which is that you have to use a character that can freeze without shield breaking, since the final boss has some pretty high effect resistance, meaning you can't freeze it comfortably with the path resonance alone. But that is easily fixed since you have a free 4-star character given to you called March 8th, 7th. And the remembrance dice giving you an effect hit rate, so your March can have high enough effect hit rate to comfortably freeze every ult, which then you can use dislocation to make them stay frozen. Well, okay, we fixed the boss damage increase problem, but how do we fix doing damage ourselves? Oh, don't worry about that. The remembrance path makes it so you do insane amount of damage to frozen enemies, so much so that I'm doing more damage on remembrance runs than hunt runs, but it could just be my god awfully built characters. Anyways, as I implied before, this top 3 is only useful for those starting out with the Swarm Disaster event. Once you've unlocked all the upgrades, it doesn't really matter what path you choose. You can continue to choose these 3 for guaranteed runs, or you can start having some more fun with the damaged ones and just one-shot everything. Anyhow, hope you guys enjoyed. Feel free to subscribe as you're also into the giveaway, and I'll see you guys all next time. Bye bye!